another FasTrax webinar. It's a weekly event we do every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. We go over various topics of the FasTrax software. See a list of these events if you go to our website, ftx.com, choose the FTx Lifeline tab, top of the page, scroll down and look for that Webinars button. Choose that. That will carry you to the webinar page, which will allow you to sign up for the newsletter to be notified of upcoming webinars as well as other FasTrax news. Sign up for the new webinars. View all the previous webinars by using that view recording button, and also search for webinars for this page for a particular topic. Today we're going to be going over the Cost Change Worksheet, utilizing that to adjust both your cost and your retail prices at corporate. Let's jump into Director here. And before we do anything, we want to look at a couple of the settings that are involved whenever you're actually applying invoices. Now, there's a couple of places you can apply invoices. You can do that at corporate or at store level. There's no right or wrong way. The settings we're going to be looking at requires the user that is logged into Director be an admin. That will unlock the settings hyperlink here. I'm going to choose that. Then I'm going to go to the inventory tab. And then I have a setting here called Invoices Default Accept Cost Changes. Now what that does is on the invoice form, whenever you're entering in an invoice and you're about to apply that invoice, to the far right of every item, there's going to be a checkbox that will allow the cost change to be applied. So if I go to my invoices here, we look at one of these real fast, we can see there's an update cost option. Now if that checkbox is checked, then by default, all of these are already going to be checked for every item. If that is not checked, it's of course going to be the opposite. In order to apply a cost change, you actually have to pick and choose that checkbox on every item that you would like to apply the cost change for. Choose that, choose apply the cost change buttons, and that will update that cost. Having that set to by default being on just saves you a couple clicks. Once again, there's no right or wrong way to do that. It's all user preference. All right, so in this example we're going to have applied some invoices at store level. So whenever an invoice is applied at store level, of course, inventory gets updated, and both the invoice and the updated inventory gets moved up to corporate via exporter. Corporate will need to know of those particular cost changes so they can apply that to the corporate price book. That way, any other stores in that same price book zone that's shared can also have their cost updated. Now, to do this, it's easily viewable if you go to the report section, choose the inventory reports, and then choose the invoice cost change report right here. You just simply choose a vendor. You can choose run for all vendors, choose a time frame, and then run that report. This will show you any kind of vendor part, UPC, the previous cost, the new cost, the old retail, the old margin, and what the new suggested retail will be based off of that old margin. It'll show all items in that particular date range that have had a cost change applied. Now, wouldn't it be great to be able to apply all these changes with a click of a button? Well, that's where this checkbox, Show as Worksheet, comes into play. If you have this checked, whenever you run the report, it's going to bring up a whole new window. This is the Cost Change Worksheet. What it will do is it basically is that report, but in a worksheet format that lets you adjust those things we were just talking about, your cost and your price. So here, looking at this item, this very top one, I can see that this particular cost change come from store one. Store one is in zone 0. I see my UPC, I see my description, I see the old cost, the new cost, my old retail, and then my old margin. Now, due to the cost being lowered on this item, if I want to adjust my retail price here, it's going to by default be based off of that same margin, that old margin. So I can see here that before I was making a 7.56% margin when comparing my old cost to my old retail. Well, based on my new cost, 7.5%, if I want to make that same margin, my new retail suggested value will be $97.90. And I can see this for every item. I can see the old cost, new cost, my old retail, or what my new suggested retail will be. I can see that invoice date, vendor part, invoice number. It gives me all the details that I actually need to see here. So if I want to manually adjust that price, this is actually an editable text box. So I can simply choose what that new retail price will be if I want to adjust that. There's also tools down here at the bottom that lets you adjust the retail price based on rounding. I can round up to the nearest 5 cents, I can round up to the nearest 9 cents, or I can round up or down to the nearest 9 cents. Now, what this will do is, let's say, for example, I have the round 5 up set in place. If I have a suggested retail price of 97.90, like that very top item, whenever I choose that round button, what that's going to do is it's going to round up to the closest 5 cents. So that new retail price would actually be, if I have that selected, 97.95. If I have the round 9 up, it's going to go up 4 more cents. So instead of 97.95, it would be 97.99. That would be my retail price. It's always going to round up to that closest 9 cents. And then if I have the round 9 up down selected, it's going to round up or down based on whatever's closest. So for example, if the retail price was 97.90, as it is here, it's actually going to round down to 97.89. It won't go up to 97.99. If the retail price was suggested to be 97.95, then it would round up to 97.99. In that scenario, it's closer to 99 rather than 89. So there's a couple other options down here. If you run this report and you have multiple stores selected from multiple zones, of course you're going to see multiple zones in the same grid. I can filter out multiple price book zones, so I'm only working with one price book zone at a time if I'd like. Now, when it comes to applying these cost changes and these price changes at corporate, to do that, I actually have to, kind of like on that worksheet when you're applying the invoice, choose the apply button. And I can go and do these one by one, or I can use the check all. There's also the option to clear all checks. Now, this next option will be, what do I want to apply? Do I want to apply my cost change only? Or do I want to apply my price change only? Or do I want to apply both? So whenever I choose the apply cost changes here, if I choose the apply option, it's going to immediately update my price book zone's cost for all items that were on this invoice. It does not touch the retail price, so this retail field is going to be totally ignored. If I do the apply price changes, it's going to update just my retail field for that particular zone. It's going to totally ignore the cost. And of course, if I have the apply cost and price changes, it will do both. It'll update both my cost and my price for that entire zone. There's one other checkbox here, the update item cost as well as vendor part cost. That's going to be the actual item's last cost in addition to the vendor part cost. If I have this checked, then it's going to update my vendor part cost as well as that last received cost. If I have this unchecked, it's only going to update the vendor part cost. It does not touch the last received cost. Now, just going back over where that is, if you don't remember, there's a good webinar to watch. That would be the price book management webinar. But if I go to an item here, search by vendor part, this last cost is going to be what my margin is based off of. That is my last received cost. So the last time that I purchased this from a vendor, I paid $90.50. My vendor part cost is, of course, the cost that's associated to that vendor part. That's if I purchase this item right now from my vendor, what does it cost? So that's what this is actually referring to. Am I updating the last cost of the item, that last received cost, in addition to the vendor part cost, or just the vendor part cost? And then there's the apply to apply those. So a good helpful thing to do is to always keep track of your cost changes. Make sure that you use these scheduled reports and just schedule the regular report to run. Maybe shoot you an email. That way you know every day, you're always on top of cost changes. If you get a report via email at a certain time of the day that you schedule that, you see that report has data on it, you need to run that cost change worksheet because it's much easier to manage your cost in this worksheet based on just those items that had those changes rather than going into mass updates or item details and doing that manually and searching. It just makes that a little more efficient, saves time. All right, so I hope everybody learned something new today. Once again, these events are every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. You can see a list of these events if you go to our website, goftx.com, choose the FTX Lifeline tab, look for the webinars button, choose the webinars button here. This will show you a list of all of our previous webinars where you can view the recording, upcoming webinars, as well as be notified of upcoming FasTrax news and other webinars. If you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, let us know at info@goftx.com. And if you have any questions on this particular topic, let us know at websupport@FasTraxPOS.com. Thank you, and have a great weekend.